Hello again. Last time, if you remember, I said we would be doing something this time with cathedral windows with a little bit of a difference. Well, I have done this one. It's quite a long table runner. It has a full cathedral window and some half cathedral windows, and it's made especially for a long table. But today I thought I would show you how to put together a smaller one with just 2 half windows instead of 3, which makes it quite a bit shorter. It's very easy to do. Don't be put off by the words cathedral window, because there is an easy way to do it and it works every time. So get your fabrics together. I would recommend you use good contrasting fabrics that shows the window up much better. So let's get started and you'll see how easy it is. This was the one I showed you in the opening segment. I made it in the green specifically because I like the greens, and it is actually 51 inches long, but the one I'm going to demonstrate is only going to be 42. I'm going to cut one of these half windows out so it will be that much shorter. So you can see you've got your window folds nicely back here. I've only quilted in the background very briefly, not too much. I've just quilted around and straight line on the back. You can quilt however you choose. Use for your backing what you've got the most fabric of. So I like to keep this because it's a really nice fabric and slightly more expensive. And I've used this for the background because that's a cheaper fabric, but it's still very nice. So be careful when you choose your fabrics because that will make all the difference. So the background squares I've got here, they're just 5-inch squares. All of those I've cut square. You just leave them exactly as they are. The print which you're going to put inside your window, you'll need one for the center window. Now that's a complete 5-inch square. The others will be cut diagonally because they're only going to be half windows. The white squares, which forms your window frame, are a 5-inch square again, but they are folded in half. Each one has to be folded in half. I've got border fabric here. That's going to be shown to you later, but I've chosen again the better print for the border, and I will probably use it for the binding as well. I'll choose that when I see how the finished table runner looks. So that's initially what you need. You'll need 5 inches of your background squares, a 5-inch square of your center window for your center window, and the others are diagonally cut, and your whites. We begin with the center square. So I'm laying out 4. I'll just show you how it is looking together. I've got 4 of these squares. They will go like that. Then the white folded ones will go on top. Try and keep them as accurate as you can along the raw edges. I'll smarten mine up before I stitch them. Into the middle, and 4, and I'm going to stitch. You can either do it that way or you can stitch that way, but if you look, if I just pop that in there, you'll see how the window is made. So what I'll do first is I will put this, I will put that one on there, line them up as neatly as you can, the other one on the top. I will pin them so they don't get out of line, and I will stitch down this line here, just this line here, and then I will be able to open it up and we'll have the top section done. Do exactly the same to the bottom 2 pieces. And press the seam open. When you've done your seams, press it open and flat because you don't want too much bulk. So once I've done that, I'll come back and we'll put the next piece on. That's the top, well, be the bottom piece for you, because you've got to leave the 1/4-inch seam at the bottom, just there. I don't know if you can see that. Just there, you must leave that. So that was our flap over. Press the seam open on the back. Put that there. I've done this one. Will go that way. Now I'm going to join these two, the bottom to the top. So I'll lay them that way on. So you can see, match up those seams and stitch across there. I have a 1/4 inch seam left on all points. That's very important because you don't, when you're sewing this, you don't want to catch the actual tip of the window frame in. So the next step is, I have pressed open my seams on the back. The next step is, this is I will call up my window pane. So I'm going to secure that in the middle. And just pop a pin in there. Just make sure, if you can, that's a little bit off, to have the points of your square on your seam line. Put that in there. Right, now you can put a little bit of 505 on just to temporarily stick it to there, just to keep it in place. The next step to complete this first square is to press down the window, the frame, pin it, do all 4 sides all the way around. I can't hold it in place very well without it being on the machine, but I just thought it's easier for me to show it to you. That will go like that. If you can see at the end, that will come in just covering that corner of the window fabric. Do the other 2 sides. Now we're going to machine stitch right around the edge here, leaving, as you saw on this one, sorry to move the things around, leaving this up. The stitch line goes round the inside of the window, all 4. I just thought I would show you this because this will make your finished window a lot neater. I've given them a good press with a nice hot iron. If you do the right hand, actually it's the wrong way round for you, I'll turn it round so you can see. If you put the right hand piece underneath and the left piece, bring that on the top of each corner. So as you're going round, that's on the top, the other end is underneath, and that gives a really neat finish. Again, I'll turn it round. Right there was over the top, so we're going to bring the other piece underneath. Sorry, I'm looking at the different way to you. So that one goes over the top, that one goes underneath, and then you've got all your points will be the same all the way around, and they finish very, very neatly. All 4 curves are stitched down. Points are nice. That's the benefit of each time one goes under, the next one goes on the top. So it just finishes it off really neatly. Nice window, nice back. So there's the lip of the frame. Give it a good press. Don't worry if it's slightly off square at the moment. We square them all up before we join them. So that's your center one finished. For the half windows, you'll need 4. So you're going to have 4 half windows, 2 go either side of the center panel. Now for this, we're going to, I'll do it that way actually because that's easier for you to see. I'm going to put it there, just like we did with the top one, but it's a half one. And we're going to put the other one there. I will, in the same way, flip that over, join them together, and then this one of our half cut triangles, will go in the middle. And it's the same again. It's just a half of the window rather than the whole square. So these are 2 I've just stitched. I have actually just stitched a line, because this is half a window, I don't want this flopping around here, and we haven't got a pressed out seam yet. So I have stitched 1/8 of an inch just down here to hold it in place. It's very important that you hold it in place. And now you're going to do the same thing again, and you're going to put the right, no, it's actually left over right on this one. So one goes over the top. So whichever end you put underneath, the next end you put on the top. And I'm going to now stitch around here and around there, give it a good press, and I'm making 4 of those. I've finished the 4 half windows. Now, as I said before, we'll square this up completely because they need to match. If you look here, that it doesn't quite match, but that's okay because this isn't squared at the corners. I've done the 4, again, press the seam open at the back, stitched close to the edge around the curve, got the nice window frame flap there. The next step is to join at the seam. There's a seam here and a seam here. You must match those up. So when that is attached to that, you will then add this one again to the seams. Always match the seams up, and 2 on each side, like so. 2 on that side. Make sure the points are facing that way and the points are facing that way because that's the same way that your window goes. So join those together, and then we'll come back and we'll fit the end pieces on, which is just some triangles of the fabric, the background fabric, making the center panel finished. I have stitched them all on. What I didn't tell you was, now because in the center square we've got the one curve going underneath, and the one lying on the top always goes out a bit further to the edge. So instead of it being a 1/4 inch to the edge on this one, it will be nearer to 1/2 inch because that's the point that you get when you fold one over the other. So don't worry about that, it will look really nice just the same. It's just a little bit wider seam allowance there when you put it together. That's how it's supposed to be. Now the only other thing we have to do to make the center panel before we put the borders on is I've taken a square and cut it diagonally, and it will go on either end, both ends. So I'll stitch that on, and then all we have left to do then is put on the borders. Now I've kept the center of the window same fabric. You could choose whatever you like, of course, if you wanted a different one, but I think that just contrasts really well. So the next thing to do will be to put on this border, and I'll come back when I put the ends on and show you how that happens. I've put my 2 end pieces on. They were 7-inch squares cut diagonally. Now because I'm using fabric I already have, I'm not so worried that the spots are not quite lining up. I actually did try to make them line up, but because of how the spots are printed on the fabric that I had left, I couldn't do it, but they look okay. So next thing is to cut 2 pieces from the seam line there to the seam line there, plus a 1/4 inch either side of the 3-inch border fabric. There'll be 2 pieces, 1 for either side. Now do measure both sides because they can vary, but you must have the same width and ease, or just slightly ease out a bit to make it even. Then I will cut 2 pieces for each end to go there, and the other piece will go down there, and then they will be sewn on at that angle there. So that's all that's left to do now, is to cut and sew on the border, and then the top is finished. I cut the pieces for either side, the long sides. Now when I cut them, of course they were square either end like that, so I have cut off the angle. So I just cut off that piece like there. We need the angle on both ends, so I did that on both pieces. Now to finish the ends, it doesn't really matter whether you do one end side first or the other, but if you do a short side here, do a short side diagonally opposite on the other end. So what we'll do, we'll put a piece of fabric on there, we'll pin it right sides together, stitch it on there, cut it off there, and then do the same here, right sides together, take that one right to the top, and then all we'll do is trim those off there and there, and then the top is completed. I've trimmed the ends off. Use your square if you can. I also measured along here, beg your pardon, along here, and it was a 3-inch strip, so now it's 2 3/4. So line it up. There you are, it's 2 3/4. There's the 2 3/4 line. You line it up with this seam here, trim that off there. Those two pieces are off. Now you've got a nice pointed end. So that is your mat finished, and all you need to do is, for your backing, you will need a piece of fabric slightly bigger, about 3/4 inch even on the other side, bigger than this, a piece of lightweight wadding to go in between, and some 2.5-inch strips to make your binding from. So when you put your excuse me, when you put your backing fabric right side down, wadding next, then you put this on the top, secure it, and then you quilt it before you trim around here to put your binding on. This is our finished top. I think we've done quite well. It hasn't taken long to put together, and the requirements for the backing, wadding, binding, they're all listed in the pattern which is in the Etsy shop. Go along and have a look, have a good browse, because there's lots and lots of patterns in there. Have a good day with that. And just remember to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and press the notification button so that you get to hear very early on what our next project will be. I just want to say thank you to all of you who send really nice comments through about the Cathedral Window. I love it, and I hope you like it too. So until next time, happy sewing!